There goes my bubble yum. So, out for a little walk on the Chesapeake Bay here in North Beach, Maryland, on the western shore of the Chesapeake Bay, just south of Annapolis, Maryland, which you can't really see today. Some days you can see the bridge, but today it's too hazy. It's about 10 miles to the other side of the bay here, so it kind of looks like the ocean. But on a clear day, you can actually make out houses over there with the binoculars. We are in the town of North Beach. This is the North Beach boardwalk, and we're going to take a little stroll down here. We do have a mask. Well, I guess we can pull it up. It's a cloth mask. Actually more of a neck garter. But to be polite to others, we should put our mask on. Not that everybody's wearing a mask. Some are, some aren't. Wonder if I got muffled. My face sounds muffled. Honk. Yeah, I don't know what they're honking at. Well, this is my hiking mask. This is my, yeah, it was double wrapped. That's why it was so hard to hear me. It's just this. My serial killer slash hiking mask. When I go into a store, I actually wear an N95 or a blue surgical mask. But when I'm committing dastardly crimes in the name of justice, hey Perry, I just put on this thing. Or when I'm hiking, because it's very thin and it's easy to breathe. The other one is very difficult to breathe in a respirator. Yeah, I got the bank robber mask on. So, it was quite crowded this weekend down here. We're going to walk out on the pier. Where they're, oh, I can't go out on the pier today. Because the pier is closed up, I think. Only at night can I go out. This is the Chesapeake Bay. It's part of the Atlantic Ocean. At this point in the bay, the salinity levels can just barely support ocean mammals. So we can see there's some dolphins occasionally. There have been sharks up this far. Occasionally whales, but actually most of them stop 20 miles down that way where the Potomac River hits the Chesapeake Bay. The Potomac is a freshwater river, and it puts out a lot of fresh water into the salt water. And there's also the Patuxent River pumping out the fresh water into the salt water. So that kind of is like the barrier for the ocean animals to stop. A whale shark in the bay. Oh, cool. This is salty-ish, but I don't think it's as salty as the ocean. I don't know what the salinity levels are here. But the last known shark attack in the Chesapeake Bay took place here in North Beach in the 1940s. So right in this town, actually, the last known shark attack on the bay. So Instagram girlies. I think they have bull sharks. There are bull sharks in the bay, but I think they're a bit farther south. The main fish here is rockfish, which is a striped bass, I think, or something like that. A lot of people eat rock. The big thing is crabs, of course. There's a blue heron out there right now, which is kind of like a crane. See that like stork bird there behind the ducks? The water is a mix of fresh and salt water here. It's a bay. It's an estuary. I think estuary is a freshwater source into salt water. That is the official term of an estuary. It's one of the largest estuaries in the world. Am I frightened? No. But am I smart? Yes. You've got to remember, we're from Hong Kong. We've been through viruses. We went through SARS. We went through avian flu, bird flus. We've been through several bird flu outbreaks in Hong Kong. Swine flu. And so, you know, as going through that before, well, we just kind of knew what to expect a lot more. Same with, that's the reason that Hong Kong, with 7.5 million people, has had 4 deaths. Maryland has 6.5 million people, and it's had over 2,000 deaths. So, you know, there's something to be said for being cautious. Hey Zen, how are you doing? Taking a cautious approach. I don't know if I can go out on the pier, because I don't actually live in this town. I live in the town down the way. There are jet skis back behind me. There's a jet ski rental place. Jet skis and kayaks. Beach is closed. Yeah, we knew that. I guess we kind of walk out here. Hey, welcome to Periscope. You're in the town of North Beach, Maryland, on the Chesapeake Bay today. Taking a walk out on the pier, past the Osprey nets and the memorial benches. Masks are required in all indoor locations in this state, but not outdoors. That said, a number of people are wearing masks. But I'd say it's about 30% are wearing masks. There's a couple Instagram girlies back there. You saw them in the bikinis. They were taking Instagram shots, and they had masks on, but then they pulled the mask off for their Instagram photos. There's some social distancing, not enough. In the sand. There we go. And we're out at the edge. So this is a fishing pier, open till 10. You can come out here and fish. So these guys are all fishing. Don't know what they caught. Oh, that's a bee. Over here we've got an osprey nest. Let me see if I can see. There's an osprey nesting. That's a fish eagle. It's like a bald eagle but a bit smaller. So you can see the osprey is on top of this post over here. There's another one on the other side, another family. The ospreys come on. I think you do need a pier fishing license, but I'm not sure. And if you do, you can just get one like at the gate here. I don't know if you need the license or the pier needs the license. It might just be the pier needs the license, and then you can fish. Let's see what the signs say. Yeah. So over here is another osprey. Can you guys see him here? It's a little bit better. He's cleaning himself right now. There he is. They're beautiful looking when they fly. Like I said, they look like bald eagles. In fact, they easily get mistaken for eagles. Hey, for those of you who are interested, there is a house right down there for sale. One of those houses that we're looking at is on sale right now for about $550,000 US. So about $500,000 will get you a house down there. One of those are row houses. So I wanted to point out these memorial benches here. They keep moving the damn benches around. I can never find them. Oh yeah, here's one. Julian T. Cooper, Pentagon, 9/11/01. And then there's a few others here who were also killed on 9/11. Here we go. Commander Dan Schauenauer, killed by cowards on 9/11/2001. A number of people in this town actually worked in the Pentagon and were killed on September 11th. So there's a few of the benches here. Here's another one. Lieutenant Darren Fontenot. He was killed in the attacks on the Pentagon. And those a lot of military families live out here. There are no crab traps on the boardwalk. We have, by the time hurricanes get up here, this is another guy, this was a SEAL team guy. He's from Calvert County. He was killed in Afghanistan. By the time the storms get up here, they've downgraded to tropical storms. That said, though, this area here, Hurricane Isabel, flooded most of those houses over there 15 years ago. Technically, yes, there are sharks in the bay, but as I was mentioning, the last known shark attack was in the 1940s here in this town. There are bull sharks much farther down. Down there where the Potomac and the Patuxent River spill into the bay is kind of the salinity mark, where a lot of the big, the dolphins and the sharks, it's sort of like where they stop. The water becomes fresh water, and they don't really like that. That said, every now and then a big marine mammal will get lost and make its way up here, but generally, no. How far is this from that swamp? Which swamp? I've been to a lot of swamps. The swamp with the boardwalk that I took you to, that's about 15 minutes away from here. But that was the Paris Glendenning Jugs Bay swamp. Yeah, that park where I went out on the boardwalk into the swamp, that's called Jugs Bay Paris Glendenning Nature Reserve, and that's about 15 miles from here, 15 minutes from here. This town is about a half hour from Andrews Air Force Base. So we're going to walk past these houses. Like I mentioned, one of these houses is for sale. Whoa! An Osprey just flew over my head. Yes, there are a lot of bald eagles, but not here. More down in the cliffs. So down on in Chesapeake Beach down there, you see those cliffs on the shore by that big radar base? There are several bald eagles nests on those cliffs. I live down there on those cliffs. I live next to that Navy base. Yeah, there's lots of bald eagles down there. Let's put it this way, it's a relatively common sight down there. You know, take this, okay, I don't see any people, so I'm going to pull my mask down for a little bit. I don't see where this house is. Like I said, there's a house for sale. Is it a far walk? Whoa. From here, it's like 2 miles, but there's a beach down there. Most people just walk the water because the water's not very deep. They just sort of wade down the bay, and then they look up and see the bald eagles and stuff flying overhead. The bald eagles are most active around sunset. So like I said, this house here is for sale, about $500,000 US. Pretty sure it's like 540,000 US. So if you want a $500,000 house on the water, I mean, that's your view. Why so much? That's actually kind of cheap. If you go up to Annapolis, you'd pay twice that much. Why so much? Just because people love the water, you know. We're 45 minutes from the U.S. Capitol. It's a bit of a drive, but it's not completely impossible to work in Washington, D.C. and live here. a lot of people from Washington buy second homes out here, and this is their weekend escape. Fishing is allowed. In fact, we saw some fishermen out on that pier right over there a little bit ago. There were some guys fishing out there. I don't know if we can see them from here, but that's a fishing pier right there. And of course, there are charter boats. There's lots of charter fishing that goes off from here. Let's make our way back. We'll pull up my mask again if we run into some people. You guys were asking about storms. Where I'm walking right now was underwater in Hurricane Isabel, which was technically Tropical Storm Isabel. And that was one of the worst storms that come here in the last, 40 or 50 years. So a lot of these older houses got flooded and replaced with these new modern ones. I just got some water. The water is kind of salty. It's a bit windy today. There's that house, $500,000. Oops. $500,000 for this house, I think. Are there a lot of people that work at Andrews Air Force Base here? Yes, there are. There are also people who work at Patuxent River Naval Air Station, which is about 45 minutes to the south of here, or in Annapolis, which is about 30 minutes to the north. But a lot of military, they tend to prefer small rural towns rather than big cities or suburbs. So there are quite a few military people from the Andrews bases and stuff that'll come out here. The other thing is that the schools in this county are some of the best schools in the state of Maryland. So a lot of parents like to move out here for the better schools, better public schools. There's a nuclear power plant that pays an exorbitant amount of property taxes to the county here, and the county funnels all that money into the education system. So they have some pretty good schools for a small rural county. I just remembered I bought some lettuce and it's in the car. It's probably getting hot. Is there a zoo? The National Zoo in Washington, D.C. is really the be-all, end-all of zoos, such that there's not much of a need for any other zoos in the area. The aquarium in Baltimore is also one of the best aquariums in the country. So between the National Zoo in Washington and the aquarium in Baltimore, they're kind of set for that sort of stuff. As I mentioned, I could get to the National Zoo in about 45 minutes, about an hour to get to the National Zoo. Is there fun stuff to do in this area? This area is very rural. Very, very rural. So if you're into outdoorsy stuff like hiking or horseback riding or stuff like that, yeah, there's plenty to do. If you're into museums and zoos, well, better to go to Washington, D.C. and do that in the city. But there are people, I mean, I could go to D.C., was it 4 o'clock? I could go to D.C., do some stuff for an hour and be back by 7:30. 7. Our apartment in D.C. is about an hour from here. But it's safer out here. There's fewer people. Is there a lot of history in this town? Not particularly. It's a rather interesting town. It was purpose-built by a railroad company. So a railroad company built a short line train called the Chesapeake Beach Railroad, running from Washington, D.C. to this town. Ferry boats came down from Baltimore, and on the weekends, there would be 10,000 people here in Chesapeake Beach. All the people from Baltimore, all the people from Washington would come out here and ride the amusement parks. There was a roller coaster, a fancy hotel, and all sorts of other stuff. But in the Depression, that all sort of fell apart. And then the Bay Bridge opened, and all the traffic went over to the Virginia, or to the Atlantic. There's been daily protests in DC, but not at the numbers that we saw over the weekend. Was the war in this area? If you remember the other day, we went down to Jefferson Patterson Park. That's about a half hour from here, and that was the War of 1812, where the British troops landed and marched on Washington D.C. The precursor naval battle to the war, the invasion of Washington, took place on the Patuxent River, which is about 20 minutes from here. The British fleet then sailed up here to Baltimore, where they bombed Fort McHenry. And during the Civil War, there was a very big prisoner of war camp about an hour south of here at Point Lookout. That was a Confederate prisoner of war camp. It had almost 50,000 Confederate soldiers. We're about an hour from Baltimore Airport. Probably an hour and 15 minutes to downtown. If I was going to go see a Ravens game, it'd be about an hour and 20 minutes, I think. Trinopolis is about a half hour. This is North Beach. The other city next door is called Chesapeake Beach. They're the twin cities. They're side by side. I think the overall population is about 9,000 people. It's like 13,000 people for both cities. So pretty small. National Harbor is on the Potomac River in Washington, D.C., near Andrews Air Force Base. It's about 10 minutes from Andrews Air Force Base. Andrews Air Force Base is about 30 minutes from here, 25, 30 minutes from here. It's windy. No, one weekend a year, Andrews Air Force Base has an open house, and you are allowed on the base, and they bring in one of pretty much every aircraft in the U.S. military. It's a giant open house. It's usually in May. This year, of course, it was canceled. But by and large, the Air Force Base is closed to non-essential personnel. The U.S. Naval Academy is open for tourists generally, though at present there is a coronavirus shutdown there as well. Most military bases are closed. Some have historic museums, like the Navy Yard in Washington. You can go to the Cold War Museum there, or the Museum of the U.S. Navy. Quantico has a Marine Museum. Pax River has a museum of test pilots. They actually have a lot of cool airplanes down there. But by and large, the actual bases themselves are closed to the general public. Okay, folks, that was my brief walk on the bay. Hope you enjoyed that little hike. I'm going to go home now. No, the coronavirus is technically decreasing, but it's DC and Maryland were hit a bit harder than most of the rest of the country, especially the DC region. So they are on I think they're still on phase 1 reopening, going to phase 2 in the next week or two. But they're a little bit behind most of the rest of the country because they had much, much more severe outbreaks. All right, guys, thanks for watching. We'll catch you